I first saw the Blasket Islands in 1953. My mother was taking me to that peninsula to immerse me in the Gaelic language, which I had no difficulty picking up. Because the English that was spoken in my grandfather's house and in the community that I lived in was laced with Gaelic phraseology. We were in transition at the time from Gaelic to English. As English influence got stronger, our language began to weaken. And ever since I saw it for the first time, I was fascinated by what we're done then. And I suppose maybe that's what maybe has inspired us to share this piece that we're going to do with you tonight. I'm going to invite Maura on stage now because we're going to blend a little bit of music from the Blasket Islands as well, and a little bit of poetry. Now I'm going to give the background to this piece of music. This is, Maura played some lively tunes for you just a while ago, the polkas, the dance tunes. The other aspect to Irish music is the laments, or the cuinas. We had much to lament about in Ireland, if you read our history. A lot of sadness, and much of that sadness has been captured in these laments. But this particular piece has an interesting story. Many, many years ago, when all of the Blasket Islands were inhabited, a man sat alone in his house one night, soothing his loneliness with a fiddle. Now he played, no doubt, the familiar tunes of that part of Ireland, the jigs and the reels and the hornpipes. Music that would put light heels on the feet of the dead. But as he played, he heard another music without, going over the roof in the air. He passed away to the cliffs and then returned again, backwards and forwards, a wandering air wailing in repeated phrases until he had become familiar in his mind. And picking up his fallen bow, he drew it across the strings and followed, note for note, the lamenting voices overhead. Ever since, that tune remained in that family, skilled musicians all. And whenever one hears it, they will know the story of Inishvigalan. The old Seanachies, some of them believed that the fairies were not immortal. They too knew death. And the lamenting music that was heard that night passing over his house was a haunting lament for one of the fairy hosts that had died and was being brought back to the island for burial. Here is this extraordinary piece of music. For they dwelt on a rock in the sea, and not in a shining metropolis, and lived off the pick of the strand, the hunt of the hill, the fish in the sea, the wool off sheep, and packets full of dollars. For they ate black pudding, drank schladdy squeezed from seaweed, and treated themselves on Good Friday to tidbits from the shore, and thought a man rich if he possessed 2 cows. For they stuffed their pillows with puffin's feathers, and the sea roared in their right ear, and the north wind moaned in their left, and they were full of sunlight and mist and wind and stone and rock and rain. But the Atlantic Ocean would not pay them a regular salary, and they did not fret about tumble dryers or grouse about the menu. For the wind would not let them strut, the rain kept them meek, and the waves laid them low, for they feared vain glory and the evil eye, chewed bits of seaweed and prayed to the Mother of God. For their enemies were bailiffs, big fat trawlers, mainland shopkeepers and crows after hens, and they made nothing fit for museum or art gallery, and utter proverbs that came up from Cro-Magnon man, for they lived before Descartes, Newton, Fry, de Sade, and Marx, invented no novel machine or vice, and never discovered high pleasure built into the earth, not the sky. And they did not rob or plunder or scatter corpses in their wake, for they lived before the age of trivia, and never made it to the age of anxiety, and did not suffer ennui, for there was turf to be cut. But they did not rush into the future, leaving their hearts behind, for they had no future. Praise the islanders, Loch Duniloin, for they were a fair people, who pelted the stranger with blessings and the bailiff-foot volleys of stones. A gentle people who twisted puffins' necks and patted babies' heads, and split the skulls of seals, for they were like children of one mother with 20 steps between each house. A quiet people who never stopped talking, full of malice and affection, whose delights were tea and tobacco, a big ship on the waves, a donkey on the loose, a boat full of rabbits, a dance, a story, a song in the dead of night, where they were as mournful as wet sheep and as white as gannets, were pagans who trusted in God and rubbed seal oil on their wounds, who welcomed wrecks but prayed for the corpses, for they loved to fill their bellies with the breeze that flows from the west. And they broke their backs with loads of fish and sand and turf and lobsters, and leant on walls to bask in the sun. For their stage was not the city, state or world, but the island, the village, the island, and neighbouring parishes which are about the right size for a human being. When they strolled beneath the Milky Way, their laughter did not pollute the night, for they kept their boats high on the waves, and their roofs low to the ground, and were grateful for seals when God withheld pigs.